Thousands of years ago, before empires rose and civilizations collapsed, one culture claimed the gods gave humanity a final warning. Not a blessing, a warning. And according to a fragmented Sumerian tablet buried beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, humanity ignored it. What if the oldest civilization on Earth believed our collapse had already been predicted? A battered fragment of clay rests behind glass in the Penn Museum, catalogued as B10673. It is not much to look at. Roughly the size of a human palm, its surface is scored by the sharp, angular marks of cuneiform. Yet this object, unearthed from the ruins of Nippur in the late 19th century by a University of Pennsylvania expedition, has become the unlikely centerpiece of a global mystery. The tablet was pulled from the ancient temple precincts in 1893, bundled with thousands of other artifacts, and quietly shipped to Philadelphia. There it was entered into the museum's ledgers as an old Babylonian relic, dated to nearly 4,000 years ago. Only about 1/3 of its original surface survives. The rest, columns of text and perhaps the most crucial lines, were lost to the breakage of centuries. What remains is a patchwork, 6 columns, 3 per side, with the central narrative riddled by gaps. Most Sumerian tablets tell stories of trade, law, or ritual. This one stands apart. Its surviving lines whisper of creation, the founding of cities, and a decision by the gods. Then abruptly, the text falls silent. The missing sections invite speculation. What was erased by time? What secrets might have filled those blank spaces? Over decades, scholars and outsiders alike have projected new meanings onto the fragment. Some claim it contains a warning delivered to humanity at the dawn of civilization. Others see only mythic echoes, the familiar cycle of divine anger and human frailty. The question lingers, does the clay itself support the legend, or has the legend grown larger than the artifact it clings to? In the end, the tablet's power lies not in what it reveals, but in what it withholds. Its gaps are an invitation, a mirror reflecting the anxieties and hopes of every age that tries to read its story. Southern Mesopotamia, more than 6,000 years ago, was a world defined by water and the struggle to master it. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers offered both promise and peril, fertile soil won by the steady labor of digging canals, raising levees, and praying the floods would be merciful. Here, the Sumerians built cities that would shape the course of history. Uruk, with its towering walls. Eridu, the legendary first city. The seat of kings and priests. Each city-state stood as an island of order in a landscape that could turn hostile with a single failed harvest or a season of rising waters. Power in Sumer did not belong to kings alone. The great temples rising above the mud-brick streets were the beating hearts of the city. Priests and priestesses managed the flow of grain, the work of the fields, the storage of surplus, and the distribution of offerings. The temple was the granary, the bank, the court, and the stage for sacred drama. Every transaction, from a shipment of barley to the coronation of a ruler, was inscribed in cuneiform on clay tablets, first as pictographs, then as the wedge-shaped marks that would become the script of empires. Writing was a tool for survival, but it was also a way to make the invisible visible, the will of the gods, the order of the cosmos, the memory of what must never be forgotten. In Sumer, the gods were not distant abstractions. Anu ruled the sky. Enlil commanded the winds and decreed fates. Inanna presided over love and war. Their presence was felt in every corner of daily life, in omens and rituals, in the cycles of planting and the outbreak of war. The divine order was fragile, a tapestry that could unravel if humans failed to uphold their duties. A warning from the gods, spoken through priests or etched into clay, would have carried the weight of survival itself. In this world, to ignore such a message was to risk the collapse of everything the Sumerians had built. The stakes were not only spiritual, but existential. The tablet at the heart of this mystery was born from a civilization where faith, power, and record-keeping were bound together, each reinforcing the other in a delicate balance that could not last forever. Cuneiform is a script of layers and ambiguities, not a single code to be cracked. Each Sumerian tablet, especially those that survive only as fragments, demands a kind of forensic patience. The wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay could stand for entire words, syllables, or even silent markers that only made sense within a specific context. Logograms, phonetic signs, and determinatives all crowd the same narrow space, their meanings shifting with each line and genre. The Eridu Genesis tablet, catalogued as CBS 10673, is a prime example of this complexity. It preserves just enough text to provoke debate, but not enough to settle it. The missing sections are not random. The outer edges, where the scribe pressed the final strokes, are the most legible. The heart of the story, the core columns, have been gouged away by centuries of breakage. What remains are the beginning and end, hints of creation, the names of gods, the aftermath of a flood. But the crucial middle, where the god's decree and the substance of any warning might have been spelled out, is lost in a jagged silence. Scholars are left to reconstruct, line by line, what could have filled those gaps. They do so not by guesswork, but by careful comparison with parallel texts, the Atrahasis epic, the Gilgamesh flood tablet, and other Sumerian myths. Each variant offers clues but never certainty. Translation becomes a negotiation with absence. The sign Gidu might mean to warn, but the suffix that would confirm its tense is half erased. Another verb, shadu, hovers between to punish and to decree. Even the most trusted editions, those by Thorkild Jacobson and Samuel Noah Kramer, are built on a scaffolding of inference, not revelation. Their scholarship anchors the field, but they never claim to have restored the tablet's lost voice. Instead, they document every gap, every ambiguity, every place where meaning flickers between possibilities. Modern researchers turn to digital archives like the Cuneiform Digital Library Initiative and the Electronic Text Corpus of Sumerian Literature, cross-referencing high-resolution images and transliterations. Yet the uncertainty persists. Two scholars can read the same line and arrive at different renderings, neither of them deceptive, both shaped by the evidence and the silence. In the end, the mystery is not a flaw in the investigation. It is the condition of the evidence itself, a warning, if it exists at all, glimpsed only through the cracks in the clay. The fragment known as the Eridu Genesis does not stand alone. Its surviving lines are echoes within a much older, broader tradition, a story of flood and reckoning that ripples through the ancient world. In the heart of its damaged script, scholars find the familiar outlines of a myth. The gods, disturbed by the disorder of humankind, convene in council. Enlil, the god of storm and authority, decides the world must be cleansed, yet not all the divine voices agree. Enki, lord of the deep waters and keeper of wisdom, moves in secret. He chooses a single human, Ziusudra, and whispers a warning few will ever hear. The text is clear on one point: the danger that approaches is not random. The flood is a consequence, a response to something the gods find intolerable: noise, corruption, a breach in the delicate order that binds heaven and earth. Only Ziusudra, through Enki's intervention, is offered a path to survival. The rest of humanity remains unprotected, unaware. The fragment preserves the moment when a god bends the rules, passing forbidden knowledge to a mortal. But the tablet's most vital lines, what exactly was said and how the warning was delivered, are lost to time. The moral logic of the story is broken, the reasons for the flood only partly visible. Scholars reconstruct the missing narrative by turning to parallel tales: the Atrahasis epic, the Gilgamesh flood tablet, later Akkadian and Babylonian retellings. Each offers a version of the same pattern: divine anger, a chosen survivor, a deluge that wipes the slate clean. Some interpretations suggest the Eridu Genesis is more than a simple myth. They see in its lines a warning, not just to Ziusudra, but to all of humanity. The gods watch, judge, and sometimes withdraw their favor. Yet the fragment's ambiguity is its power. The missing portions leave open whether the story was meant as prophecy, memory, or instruction. Was the warning meant for a single age, or for every age that reads the clay? The question lingers, unresolved, a haunting silence where the gods once spoke. The fragment remains, a relic of a time when survival depended on reading signs, obeying omens, and listening for the faintest whisper of a warning from above. Around 2200 BCE, the rivers that once fed Sumer's fields began to shrink. For generations, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates had been a place of abundance, but now the rains faltered and the canals ran dry. Archaeologists call this the 4.2 kiloyear event, a drought so severe it left its mark in pollen cores, lake beds, and the dust of abandoned villages. Cities that had thrived for centuries, like Akkad and Ur, saw their populations scatter. Clay tablets from this era record not triumph, but loss. Storehouses empty, harvests fail, and rulers plead with gods who no longer answer. The collapse of Akkadian power was not a single moment, but a drawn-out unraveling. Political chaos and environmental disaster fed each other. As the drought deepened, kings lost control of their territories. Invaders pressed in from the hills. Trade routes broke down. In the south, Ur III rose for a brief, desperate resurgence, but even this last dynasty could not hold back the tide. By 2000 BCE, the temples that once anchored the cities stood hollow. The priests who had mediated between heaven and earth found their sanctuaries deserted, their rituals echoing in empty halls. For those who lived through it, the world must have felt forsaken. The laments that survive from the ruins of Ur and Nippur do not speak in the language of climate science or economics. Instead, they record a sense of cosmic abandonment. The gods have left their houses, the sacred fires have gone out. In the face of drought and war, the people looked upward for answers. Why had the divine order failed? Why had the gods turned away? These ancient laments transform disaster into sacred memory. Hardship becomes a sign, a warning that something fundamental has gone wrong between humans and the divine. When the world breaks, the explanation is not just failed crops or foreign armies, but a breach in the covenant between mortals and their gods. The story of collapse becomes a story of warning, a memory that echoes long after the last temple doors have closed. In times of crisis, ancient warnings gain new life. The battered lines of the Eridu Genesis, so ambiguous in the museum's light, have become a canvas for modern fears. When the world feels unstable, when droughts stretch on, wars flare, or the old order seems to fray, fragmentary texts like this one invite bold claims. Some see in the gaps a prophecy, a final message from gods who once walked among mortals. Others urge caution, pointing to the careful work of translation and the dangers of wishful reading. Zechariah Sitchin stands as a figure at the center of this storm. In the late 20th century, Sitchin's books reimagined the Sumerian flood story as a coded warning about a hidden planet, Nibiru, and the return of ancient beings. He rewrote the gaps in the clay as secrets, skipping over the missing lines and layering in tales of catastrophe and cosmic cycles. The academic response has been swift and clear. Sitchin's translations ignore context, invent connections, and mistake astronomy for myth. The word Nibiru, for example, never appears in the Eridu Genesis. Its true home is in later astronomical lists, not in the flood narrative or the story of Ziusudra. Yet the power of such stories is hard to resist. When people face uncertainty, climate shifts, wars, a sense that the world is slipping out of control, the idea of a lost warning feels urgent. The tablet's missing center becomes a mirror for modern anxiety, reflecting fears of collapse, moral decay, or abandonment. Responsible scholarship treads carefully here, resisting the urge to fill the silence with certainty. The truth is quieter and perhaps more haunting. Some part of the message will always remain just out of reach. The clay endures, holding both what we know and what we long to find. Warnings carved into clay do not survive because they predict the future. They endure because they record what people feared most. The battered Sumerian tablet, its lines fractured by centuries, is less a prophecy than a record of anxiety, a silent witness to the nightmares of its age. In the world of the scribes, myth was not entertainment or simple explanation. It was a vessel for memory, a way to pass down the lessons of disaster and the boundaries of hope. Stories of divine anger and cosmic floods were not just about gods or kings, but but about the fragile line between order and chaos. When a scribe pressed a warning into wet clay, it was not only for the present, it was for every generation that might one day stand at the edge of the same darkness. The language of the Eridu Genesis is uncertain, but its purpose is unmistakable: to remind, to caution, to remember. Myths like these do not predict, they preserve. They hold the emotional truth of a civilization that understood how quickly fortune could turn, how easily the world could slip away. The tablet's warning, if it exists, is not a message from the gods so much as a mirror held up to human frailty. The story endures because the fear endures. It is the fear of silence after the flood, the fear that the gods will not answer, the fear that what was lost will not return. In this way, the myth is both a warning and a memory, a record of what it meant to live always in the shadow of collapse. Warnings carved into clay do not vanish because they are heeded. They endure because again and again people forget why they were written. The battered Sumerian tablet, silent after its flood, is less a message from the gods than a record of how easily memory slips away. Some interpretations suggest the real subject is not divine anger, but the slow drift of human attention. The way each generation convinces itself that danger is distant, that collapse comes for others, never for themselves. Civilizations rarely end in a single night. Instead, they fade as warnings become background noise, as rituals lose their meaning, as the signs of trouble are explained away or ignored. The Sumerian fragment survives not as a coded prophecy, but as a trace of how people once tried to make sense of endings. Its lines, fractured and incomplete, echo the pattern that repeats across centuries: the forgetting of old lessons, the refusal to see the signals until it is too late. The tablet becomes a mirror for every age that thinks its troubles are new, its failures unique. The oldest stories still feel alive because the pattern has not changed. Attention drifts, responsibilities are set aside, and memory grows thin. Even when the gods recede, the burden of listening remains. The warning lingers, not in thunder or fire, but in the quiet expectation that someone, somewhere, will remember what was written in clay and choose to pay attention before the silence returns. Civilizations don't vanish in a storm. They erode, warning by warning, as their truths grow inconvenient. Some interpretations suggest the tablet's message was less about divine wrath and more about human blindness. Today, as environmental and moral fault lines deepen, the ancient pattern persists. The real warning was never from the gods. It was from ourselves. History listens, even when we don't. Share your thoughts below.